In this video, I want to talk to you about how your drive to learn piano music faster might actually be slowing down your overall progress and what you can do to genuinely speed up your learning. Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Leah Murphy. I'm the owner of Lekela Music Studio. Lekela is the Irish for together, and what better way to learn music? I've over 15 years of teaching experience, and I want to share that experience with you so that you can learn piano not just faster, but with a deeper level of understanding. So today's video is all about the concept of automaticity and how you can use it to remove some of the obstacles that have been holding you back. We're going to look at three really important areas that we can apply the concept of automaticity to, and I'm going to give you some ideas about how you can do that. All three areas are important, but I have to say in my experience, when I've worked with transfer students, for example, it's the third area that they've gotten especially excited about. So make sure you hang on until the end of this video. I haven't put it first because there's a particular learning order that's quite important. Anyway, let's get started. So first of all, what is automaticity? So automaticity refers to the development of certain basic skills to the point where you're not really even aware anymore that you're using them when you're carrying out a task. So for example, when you sign your name, you're not thinking about what letters you use or how to write them, you just do it without thinking. If you know how to ride a bike or drive a car, you'll remember that when you were learning, you had to think about a lot of things simultaneously. So your coordination, how to use the brakes, road safety, all that stuff. But gradually all those things became automatic, and now you sometimes arrive at your destination, I'm sure if you're anything like me, with no recollection of how you did it. So the more complex the skill that you're learning, the more elements you'll have within that skill that will need to become automatic, and the more practice and training you'll need. So when you get started, when you started going to school, the teacher didn't just explain the sounds of the alphabet once or twice and send you on your way. It took years of daily practice moving through different levels of difficulty for you to reach the point where you can just look at a group of small shapes on a page and know instantly what word they represent and what that word means. And as each element of a greater skill becomes automatic, you get some magic happening because you're basically freeing up brain power to apply to managing all the other bits. So it's as if you were juggling four balls and then one of them suddenly grows wings and it looks after itself. So now you're effectively now just have three balls to juggle. So learning to read music is actually not anything like as complicated as learning to read words. In fact, I mean, if we all had as much exposure to reading music day in, day out as we do to reading language, well, let's just say Lang would have a lot more competition. In any case, if you're studying an instrument, and in this case piano, there are a number of basic skills we need to master if we want to become fluent in that instrument. The problem though is that quite often when we start learning a new piece of music, we're impatient to have the finished product. We want to hear it the way we know it. So we focus all our energy on learning just that piece and often just relying on memory and ear more than our ability to decipher what's on the page. And we don't necessarily recognize when things aren't quite as they should be or when we're not really understanding the skills we need to apply. So if you ever have that feeling that you're just flying by the seat of your pants and you're not really in control, that's the reason you're having to use skills that aren't yet automatic. So it feels like skin of the teeth stuff. Okay, so there are three areas that I want to touch on today, and I'll be going into more depths in videos to come. Today I just really want to get across to you what a difference automaticity will make to you in these three areas. So number one, piano geography, very basic. If you're still quite early on in your study of the piano, this is an area that you'll need to spend some time on. You need to know instinctively where all the notes are, where A is, which note is F sharp. Even if you're a bit more advanced, maybe you find yourself getting confused about A sharp or G flat because you're more used to thinking of those notes as B flat and F sharp. And that's something I see quite a lot. So a quick fix for this is just to spend a few minutes in each practice session targeting a couple of notes at a time. For example, you could take D and A and play them all over the keyboard in an improvisation. So how creative can you be with just two notes? Can you use them to tell a musical story? Can you make sure to move all over the keyboard as you go? Don't just stay on the notes in the middle of the keyboard. Name the notes as you play them so that you form a connection in your brain between the name of the note and its position on the piano. If you're working with black notes, they each have two names, don't they? So today you might be working on C sharp and A sharp, and tomorrow you might practice them as D flat and B flat. Don't forget to include C flat and E sharp somewhere along the way. If you do this for a few weeks, or however long it takes you to get comfortable with the geography of the keyboard, because there isn't any right amount of time, but you'll find that you've now freed up more brain power to apply to the next element that we can hopefully make automatic, and that is rhythm. So I've said it before, rhythm is more important than melody. You can get away with the occasional wrong note, but you can't perform music convincingly if your rhythm lacks confidence or is just plain off. It's the most foundational aspect of music learning, and a lot of students find it really daunting. But spending some time doing rhythm drills at each practice will pay huge dividends, I promise you. Depending on where you are in your learning, you might need to start with just learning to keep a steady beat, listening to music and noticing where the strong beats fall. Really not to be underestimated, actually. And it needs to be embodied. So clapping, tapping your foot, marching, dancing, whatever it takes to feel that beat. If you can't feel a beat in your body, you can't project it in your music. So if that's where you need to start, that's where you need to start. For written rhythms on the page, you probably need to practice counting. Personally, I like to use rhythm language, like Kodai rhythm language, which is for me is more intuitive than counting 1 and 2 and 3 and so on. But it's also fine to count. I'm going to make a video soon for you on that very topic. But in the meantime, I'll put a link in the description to some exercises you can add into your practice, and you'll find they're really quite fun once you get going. More importantly, you'll be able to apply what you learn to the music you're actually studying, and you'll understand finally why your teacher keeps correcting you in that one spot all the time. And you'll have freed up even more brain power to devote to the last of our 3 basic skills, which is, of course, note reading. So, note reading, I think for most people, this is the scariest part about learning music. Though, really, rhythm is actually a more complex skill in many ways, but somehow rhythm doesn't worry students as much as the actual notes. So, when you're faced with a piece of music put in front of you and all you can see is a sea of dots and stems, in fact, reading notes is the easier skill to master. So there are actually 2 skills involved in note reading. And the problem I most often see students struggling with is that they're only using one, and that's identifying the letter name of the note as it appears on the staff, and then finding that note on the keyboard. And of course, that's important, but when you see someone sight reading music apparently effortlessly off the page, identifying individual notes is only a tiny part of what they're doing. What they're mainly doing is reading musical shapes, patterns, the relationships between the notes in the music. And that might sound a bit vague, but it's actually a very concrete, learnable skill. It's just the recognition of what we call intervals, or the distance between notes on the page or on the piano. So learning to read music fluently means working on both skills, being able to identify notes when necessary, but also recognizing intervals. And honestly, being able to read intervals could be a real game changer for you if you haven't come across the concept before. So what can you do to improve your note reading? Again, of course, it means dedicating some time to it at each practice. There are some good apps you can use to make it more fun. So for younger players, an app like Flash Note Derby is really engaging. But if you're not into animated horse races and alien spaceship battles, you might want to check out Tenuto, which includes exercises for interval reading and lots more stuff, actually. It's a really good app. Not expensive for what it includes. On a side note, I would advise against using mnemonics like every good boy deserves fun for identifying notes. It's not any harder to learn EGBDF, and it's quicker. Again, I'll be putting together a video very soon to go through all of this in more detail. I probably should have done the other video first, but we are where we are. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them when I do put them up. That's my advice. So one last thing, just knowing about automaticity isn't actually enough. Unfortunately, you have to carve out some time in your practice to include work on whatever area you're struggling with. But the good news is that because you're going to work in very focused areas, you'll see progress and improvement really very quickly. Maybe take one area at a time, spend 5 minutes a day, finding notes on your keyboard or practicing rhythm reading or recognizing intervals and playing them. I promise you, your teacher will notice. Trust me, they'll be asking you what happened, and then you can send them here. So I really hope this has helped to energize your practice. If any of this has resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.